Hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode. And today I'm joined with Cath and Cath and me going to be speaking about autism. It's going to be a really interesting episode where we're probably both going to learn stuff about each other as well. So thanks, Cath, for coming on.
No problem. Thank you very much, Mason.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
yeah. Thank you for coming on. And your wonderful if I say it right, Yoda. It's not Yoda though, is it?
Grogu.
Grogu. Grogu.
Well,
Because I haven't watched it.
it is Star Wars Day after all.
Yep. It's Star Wars Day today, so it's a good day to do this.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. So do you want to just say a little bit about yourself? Like a little intro.
So my name's Cath, or Catherine, whichever one people want to call me. I get some of my friends who call me Cathy, but very few. I'm 25 years old, a mum of one, and my child is currently waiting to be diagnosed with autism. Hence why I'm here chatting with yourself.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm a big Hoovian, a big geek, big dork.
Yeah.
I'm short at 5'2", so that often gets taken the mick out of. But other than that, that's pretty much it about me.
Yeah. Well, like with autism, did you like how long have you been trying to get diagnosed for your son?
So with regards to Logan, it was one of those, it's been the past year, really. I'd had suspicions that something wasn't quite right from the age of like 1 onwards, but obviously we did just start to go into a pandemic, and there was stuff there that they weren't too sure of, whether it was like just age, kind of he wasn't going as quickly mentally as the age that he was.
Yeah.
So they were like, it's fine, he could just be behind a bit developmentally, and he could have a developmental leap and be fine by the time he starts nursery and school and things. And then I put him into crash. We get 3 hours here in South Wales through their Flying Start program that they have internationally. And basically the crash turned around and spoke to me, saying what their concerns were, and they linked with mine. And I was like, I'm glad it's not just me. And it was semi like a weight off my shoulders, because it was one of those, like, I know they say mothers know their children, but it was also one of those, am I labeling my child as having special needs when he potentially may not, or additional learning needs? I'm not sure what people would prefer me to say.
Yeah.
Because it's recently changed in the schools to ALN, additional learning needs, isn't it?
Okay. Yeah.
So it went from there, really.
Yeah. And what made you thought about this? Like, I suppose at the start, like that you may have autism.
So for me, it wasn't necessarily like it was a definite he has autism, but there were traits of autism that could have been other things also. I say other things. I know, so I have ADHD and his dad has ASD. So being autistic spectrum disorder, for those who are new here. Essentially, my little one ended up regressing almost, and his speech kind of disappeared. He stopped making eye contact. He was very scared, and if you tried to call him, he was very much in the zone and focused and would get very hyper fixated. Now, to me, those are quite similar traits to ADHD, and they do say that ADHD traits are in autism, but autism traits aren't in ADHD.
Yeah.
So it was one of those, right, okay, well, I mean, they do say it's very much based down to genetics as well, so it's undoubtedly he's either going to have either one or a few.
Yeah.
And then I watched him as he started to progress through like his developments. He was still behind, and then he was consistently hand flapping, and that was the biggest giveaway to me.
Yeah.
And he started doing this, and it was like he was casting a spell, as I call it, just as little quick. He's just casting a magic spell, because obviously kids who are his age or just a little bit older don't quite understand it. So it's like, oh yes, it's fine. He's just casting a spell. He's just making sure he's all okay. It's his way of expressing himself. And kids tend to be like, oh wow, that's amazing. But he's very vocal with it because he makes this kind of growl or hiss sound. It's very much like, and that's the sound he makes when he does it. And he jumps up and down with it when he's really fixated and intense with it. So that was the biggest giveaway for me. And then it started to be the dependability of things being in sets or pairs and even numbers. He didn't like things in odd numbers. And he was really intelligent with things like that, of like knowing where things went. It had to be done in a set form, a set order. He was watching children play and they left blocks on the wall, but all scattered about. So then he came along and he moved all the blocks uniformed to be in line and color orientated. And I'm not saying like these are definite traits of autism, because it can also be your child is just incredibly smart for their age, but obviously going with everything else that was there and being displayed, it was like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, like everything you're saying is, in my eyes, kind of autism, because even like putting things in order, like putting things in a row, puffing hands, kind of all that kind of stuff. Does he like, is he like verbal or non-verbal?
So he's pretty much non-verbal. I know some of that is partially due to age, but also his speech, just like where he was at, he was saying yes, no, mum, dad, and a few other things scattered in there. And then he started regressing and didn't even say mum and dad at one point. He's recently learned to say various forms of saying yes, but can't grasp no. We've had the odd occasional why. So he's starting to question, but he genuinely cannot like string sentences or like a couple of words together. It doesn't work like that for him. So we've like kind of gone down the route of, well, how can we get him to communicate with us in a way that we can understand at this current moment in time, along with what he can focus and learn as well, because obviously you have to look at age-wise what he's capable of, and then needs-wise what he's capable of. So he can't really speak. Talking-wise, he's behind anyway, and they put him forward for speech and language for that. Therapy-wise, and we're still awaiting to see the person in person, because obviously we were in the middle of a lockdown at the time. And essentially we started teaching him to bring us a bottle or a bowl or plate when he was hungry or thirsty, and then he started learning to be able to like lead us. So I'd be like, you show me, and I'd take his hand and I'd start to walk, and eventually grasp that he could take you somewhere and lead you to do something. Whether that was playing with his chalkboard and handing you chalks, whether that was going into the kitchen and pushing me towards a cupboard that he knew the squash was kept in or that the snacks were kept in. And obviously the hardest one for us at the moment is trying to potty train, because he just doesn't grasp the concept of going to the toilet without a nappy on, and it really upsets him. He's quite scared of the toilet and things like that. And I know kids of this age, some of them are slow starters, some of them pick it up quite quickly. But for Logan, it's genuinely like you could take a nappy off or have him in pants and he will hold in the toilet until he has the nappy back on. So that's been the biggest task as of this current moment in time. And then obviously he's made the transition to school recently, which has upset the whole routine and has meant that there has been some newer meltdowns as his understanding is developing. And it's almost like he's now aware of these other emotions he didn't necessarily display at the time. And he's getting more tired quickly. We're walking more because I'm trying to get rid of the pram until it's necessary, like for us to go out places he may need it. But like the school is very much local. It's a 5-minute walk down the road for us. So it's nice for him to have that kind of let's walk and go about a routine.
I think routine is important, isn't it? I think that's maybe why he may be a bit stressed, maybe going to school or just starting recently, because it is like a routine, something he's been used to maybe for a while, And probably started at the pandemic, the first lockdown. It might have been distress then from that change routine at the start,
Yeah, because
maybe.
we couldn't go out and do things with the freedom that we had before, because it was all that. Here in South Wales, it was genuinely a case of you could exercise for an hour a day. That was it. You could go out an hour a day
Yeah,
in your bubble. So whereas he may have seen more people out and about, he wasn't seeing that.
yeah, yeah. I think it was really hard, and I think still is, isn't it? Like, it's hard to understand like what's going on and why can't I go out because like the government say so, and it is hard to understand even for people that who know what's happening. I think.
Yeah. So I
um,
think for kids, it's like, why can't we go to the park? Why were these places shut? Why can't we just go and pop here? And
yeah, but I do think that was the easiest time. Well, like when everyone was inside, I thought it was a really good time to go out at more evening time because no one was there.
yeah,
So that was pretty good. But yeah, autism. There is a lot to it, and it is very helpful when you do have a diagnosis. But it's really hard to um like how old is like Logan, like your son?
he's 3 years old,
I think he's
literally
that,
not
yeah.
long turned
I know that.
three. So
Yeah,
it's very much a case of people are like, some people are very much like, it could be down to age. But then there are other professionals who have walked into the environment with Logan and gone, yeah, no, there's very much a case of there is some form of needs there. And I think you are on the right track with the whole autism side, but we can't formally diagnose him because that has to be done by neurodevelopment and pediatrics,
yeah,
which obviously we're on the
yeah.
wait list for.
Yeah, it's it takes time, and it's good job. It's good you're doing it now because even if it takes a while, he's young. um,
Yeah.
like um, I was diagnosed when I was 9. Um, and like now I see more people getting diagnosed as adults now. More now. To when I was young, lots of people were getting diagnosed my age. And not as so like people get diagnosed in their 40s now, don't they?
Yeah.
40, 50. So it's better to get a diagnosed sooner rather than later, I think, because you have that help. And if you get diagnosed later in life, you possibly won't have that help, or you have to be in maybe a certain setting that you're not comfortable with being in.
Yeah. And I think people don't kind of understand as well that once you have been diagnosed with these, especially later on in life, you kind of are mourning in a way over like life wasn't supposed to be this hard for you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um, and like the playing field is very much not even compared to what you're taught it is. And it's like, especially in school, we didn't really have this whole learning about additional needs. We didn't have this whole autism week in school that they now have, which I think is incredible. Props to the educational system at the minute for trying to teach children about additional learning needs. I do think more could personally be done on it, but it's about how to integrate it in a safe manner as well.
yeah. I think there's still lots to be done with the understanding of autism and the yeah, just to talk about it, and like because like I think the more people that have autism themselves are actually working in those kind of, or no, people know more about, because like sometimes for schools, or for example, or just place in general, they don't understand it, and they don't know what it is. And um but it's very hard. Like if it eventually goes well, I suppose it will be hard, like telling telling him that he's got autism and can't explain it to him, because it is quite hard to explain, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I was talking to a friend about it who's from the States, and I was saying that it's he was having an intense day with his emotions and he couldn't wrap his head around like what I meant by intenseness, so it all intensifies. And I was like, I don't really know how else to explain it. Like his focus will be very intense on things and you can't get it back. It'll be a case of like everything emotionally is very big emotions, where we may be able to I say we, some people and neurotypical people may be able to self-regulate better than that of autistic people. And the same with, I find with ADHD, I have very big ups and very big downs. I don't seem to have very much of the in-between.
Yeah.
And obviously you tend to find that with these side of things, you get the anxiety, you get the depression with it, and they're very common to have along with.
Yeah. Like,
so you can only imagine what it's like for a child who doesn't have the concept of knowing that this is not necessarily how you may actually feel.
yeah.
This is just a build-up of how the chemicals have worked in my body. And it's like trying to teach Logan to self-regulate in a way that he's not going to harm himself right now. So for me, it's a case of we'll hold his hands, we'll wiggle his arms, because for him, he calms down through movement. He very much stims through movement as well. He likes being rocked or swung, or his favorite thing is very young, from a young age, was your typical parents throwing you up in the air, because he is like an adrenaline junkie. He will climb things to his heart content, throw himself off things. So you have to make sure that you keep an eye on him at all times as much as possible.
Yeah, I think we all like that, don't we? we get chucked on the air, even now.
Yeah.
Like he must like well, like I reckon he'll be not interested in trampolining maybe when he's older.
Yeah, well, this is what we were looking at, is the local areas what have autistic hours and specialize in having a quieter time in their stores, or a quieter time during their like cinema days and things like that, which I hadn't really thought about per se. I've just been like, I'm one of those people, I'll Google when the quietest hours are, and I forget that you can just ring places up and be like, do you offer an autism hour, a quiet hour? Do you offer this? Do you offer that? And that it's very much okay to ask these things now.
Yeah.
Whereas like I feel like when we were growing up, everything was still very much frowned upon. It was like, oh, your child's got issues.
Yeah.
Whereas like now it's so much more accepted.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in cinemas they do, I think, autism friendlies, don't they? I like films and stuff.
I learned that the View in Swansea locally does a quiet hour of, they'll have the lights on for people with autism. They'll turn the sounds down so they're not as loud through the speakers, just to help with all of that, which I think is absolutely great. So Logan's quite light sensitive. He very much loves intense light, but doesn't like going from a really bright setting into a really dark setting, especially quickly. So if it's been a bright sunny day and you bring him into like a dimly lit room where, like, I don't know, just a little bit dark, he really doesn't like it.
Okay. Yeah. I was scared type when I was younger. I was, so I don't blame him. But yeah, like a thing I don't like in the cinema personally is people eating.
Oh, I can understand that.
Because think about it, we all go to cinema to watch a film. If we don't go in there to eat, although we can, but the best part to eat is if the film is really loud. At a point in the thing, but it's annoying. That's one of the things I just don't like, people eating in general, like making noise. But the thing is, it's all right. I might make noise.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't think I make too much loud noise, but it's something that I don't like. It's kind of like a chalkboard scraping for me, which it sounds like, but to people they'll be like, "You're making noise, so why can't I make noise?"
Yeah.
I say, doesn't work like that.
It's one of my friends is autistic and he doesn't like the sound of people audibly chewing their food. So he doesn't mind the sound of like food cooking, but he can't deal with like actually hearing someone, especially if they're quite a vocal, chopping of the chops kind of person of a you can't do it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's absolutely fair enough. And like, out of respect, like I wouldn't purposely, unless we were in an environment where we were all sat eating, wouldn't go eating by him, near him, or with a headset on. I'd mute myself.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, eating like in a plate is different because I suppose you're not as focused on other people's what they're doing because you're focused on what you're doing. Maybe it's not bad. I don't think if you're in a restaurant. Um, but if it it's even if people are still close to you, it's still irritating. But yeah, I think that's what makes you sensory, and I'm sensory with my autism. I just don't like that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, but it does help like getting diagnosis and stuff because it's very hard work. Yeah, it's not easy, but when you get there, it is rewarding. Probably people who they're doing their jobs. Hopefully they're doing everything right, but sometimes they get it wrong.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if I have other stuff, because it's like auditory wise, I really struggle with lots of sounds and I get like overwhelmed. And even when I went to the cinema the other day and we were watching Batman, there was just a certain part in the film where the um, vocals and the sounds were so loud, I ended up crying because it was so intense. It was so loud on my ears and it hurt. That's the only way I can describe it, is it hurts my brain and it hurts my ears.
Yeah, yeah. Was that is that because of your ADHD?
I don't know. I would, for me, because of when I found out that I had ADHD, I just kind of was like, oh well, this is what we have. We're living with it now, and I
Mm.
never went any further into it. And it's only recently that I've started educating myself on it, especially now that like Logan's going through what he's going through and learning how to help him with his learning needs as well as my own.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's like, how would you like if you had to explain your like ADHD to someone who didn't know? Like, how would you kind of explain that? Do you think?
Um, for me, it's like I can't have just one consecutive thought, one after the other. I can't sit and just ponder one thought. So I constantly have noise in my head of various different thoughts all at the same time. And I'll try to follow a thought, which then ends up with me trailing off into other thoughts, but I've still got all the other thoughts going on at the same time. So think of it like being in a room with crowded people and you're trying to make yourself heard, but then you catch other people's snippets of conversations and you remember something from their conversations that triggers something else, but you can still hear the original conversation going on. And that was like the biggest thing for me. And then from that as well, I was very much a child who spoke 100 miles an hour. I didn't have concept of like time, of like people would just be like, just for 2 minutes, can we be quiet? Just for 2 minutes. And a couple of seconds would go by and I'd be back talking 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So it's like I have all this energy and then at the same time, I also have no energy at all.
Yeah.
And it's like I get those days where I physically have to force myself to move and get out of bed, because obviously I do have the little one, but it does give me purpose to get up and move and do these things. Whereas like I think if I was on my own, I wouldn't be able to. I'd just be stuck in this comatose of I need to do this, but I can't move. And time blindness is a massive one as well. So I have to constantly either set alarms for stuff, or I end up waiting and I can't do things with my day because I'm like waiting to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for the thing with ADHD, there's kind of a stigma, I suppose, um, that people with ADHD are like, especially in schools and stuff, that they if they're naughty, that's what people think. Like teachers think if you got ADHD, you're a naughty person. You're doing this because you want to disrupt the class, stuff like that. And it's not like that.
No, it's not.
It's like for example, probably a lot of people rock on chairs. in
Yeah.
schools, and you do that because like you wanted to, or you thought it's, although you probably in your head you think there's a fear I'm going to fall off this chair, but I still want to do it because it makes me maybe concentrate to what I have to do.
Yeah, so I find rocking or moving so I'll move my feet constantly. I'm very much like I'll tap them on the floor lightly in like a series of patterns, or I will swing them back and forth. But even to go to sleep at night, I have to like rock like this on my sides
Yeah.
because it's the motion of the movement that is calming and can help me focus. And rather than having all of this going on and all these thoughts, I kind of have to be like focus on the rocking, and I'll count or something to try and help me go with it.
Yeah, yeah. I have to like tap. I have to tap things
Mm.
certain amount of times. I have to look at down corners like quite a lot. And I don't know. I just worry. I'm a worrying person. I just worry about different things. Like if I don't do that, something bad will happen, or something like that. But yeah, I do those kind of things. Like I will maybe flick the switch 3 times or 4, 5,
Mm.
the kind of things. But yeah, I think in schools, like hearing at the moment that like people are still struggling, um, that have special needs and like need more help is quite sad, um, because like, well, we want to call schools schools, don't we, or stuff. But like we don't want to call them special schools, or we have to because we want to help. They want to help the people that need that support. Um,
Yeah. But I think there becomes a point of they could possibly use other words than special needs or
mm,
additional needs for a school-wise environment, because we have mainstream and it could literally just be mainstream and non-mainstream.
yeah, yeah,
Because
because
obviously when you search online, these things will come up in the tags anyway, because that's what they'll tag with the website is people will type in autistic schools, people will type in ADHD schools, people will type in um, schools to help manage anger.
yeah,
um, and if that's something they're searching for, it can just be put in as a tag rather than it actually being, I'm looking for a specialist school.
yeah, because yeah, it's hard because it's hard to get out of a mainstream school and go to a special school. And like I talked about this the other day, like like people who maybe need more help, um, have maybe one-to-ones or something like that.
Mm.
And what if like they're in that class and then I was like this. You was in this half of the room, and like this one member of staff will help this certain of the class, because they need that more support maybe and a certain thing. But they would like always sit there, like and maybe so wouldn't help other people. But maybe felt they needed the help, but they weren't asked maybe because they feel like that they need more help, and I don't. But it's kind of hard, like that I feel,
So I
like
do
that.
think that with schools in general, because it's like Logan very much needs a one-to-one or some form of extra assistance. He was granted a one-to-one when he was in crash, but has started school and doesn't have a one-to-one now. So that's been a really big change for him.
Yeah,
And there's over 30 kids in his class. There's 4 teachers. But it's still not the same as having that one-to-one. And I think at that point, there needs to be even just something in place to help bring those kids across to having no one-to-one, if that is something the school can't afford or they can't get the funding for at that time. Either tell us and help us find a way to integrate the child into the school rather than just putting them straight into that setting.
yeah, yeah. Because it's hard because I feel like maybe just have people that need more support all in one class, not mixed with different needs for different children. It would be much easier, wouldn't it? Like if you had people that needed that more support just in one class,
I
rather
think
than.
at that point, with it's almost segregation wise, and where do you draw the line? And I think that's what the schools are looking at what point do we draw the line here, as to people who are severely behind or people who just are struggling a little bit. And I think if there are concerns and they are able to do all these assessments, it needs to be pushed and fought for, because I do feel that the schools have such a big responsibility to these kids, and they're just not getting seen to.
No.
Whether that's a case of it shouldn't have to all fall on the parent shouting as loud as possible for their child to be seen, which unfortunately it is the case right now with how things are, and because of COVID, and people around, especially locally to me, the educational psychologist currently is part-time. So at what point did they not think, oh, we may need an extra person here to help pick up and help us sort out the rest of the cases and help get these children the help? And I just think the lack of resources put forward to help people with special needs or additional learning needs needs to increase. It really does.
Yeah, because even if I was a person that needed a bit more help in certain things than other people, but still I would struggle to ask for help. I would, and I would be hard to ask, and like you get answers back from teachers or something like why can't you try again, and stuff like that. And it's not, I know they're trying to be nice and all, but like you ask for help because you want the help.
Because the one I found hard for myself is, if I can't grasp something within a few tries, my brain says no. And I ended up having to go to after school clubs and stuff. I had a home to school book when I was in primary school to help me with my maths and things, because I really did struggle. And I think at that point, like, my brain was very much like, no, I just don't understand it. And then you have the teachers who will push and be like, just try again, just try again, just try again. And I'm like, but you're not showing me again how to do it. You're just expecting me to just keep staring at these numbers on the page and hope it forms into something different, or hope that I understand it, instead of sitting there and going, okay, let's give it a different approach. If we put it like this and like this, does that make more sense? And I just feel like there's not enough of that in schools. And I think it's to do with the time that they can actually spend with each individual child.
Yeah, because there's not enough time, is there? I think it's almost like hour and lesson maybe, or less than that.
You think with schools these days as well, the classes are quite big.
Yeah.
And it's like, when I was in school, I think there was maybe about 20 something kids. And I'm saying that the school struggled then. So can you imagine now what it's like, where a lot of schools are overrun?
Yeah. It's disappointing, because there are people that like, there's going to be good things about every school, bad things about every school. Even when I went to special school, it was very good. It's really, I got more confidence. I did well and stuff, but there's still bad things. Like I had to make teachers get autism training at one point, because there was a situation where I got asked to go to lunch after a lesson, and there's me thinking I'm going to go for lunch, to take that seriously, and I get told off for doing that, and I said I got told to go to lunch and stuff, and then later on we had a meeting and that, and then they did have autism training and stuff, but it's just those things. Like, not everyone's going to understand what you mean and stuff, and that's why more people who have actually have autism and have a lot of knowledge of it need to be working on these kind of things, because you've got to know how people are coming across. If you don't, it's not going to be very good, is it?
No, it's like, I know for a fact with Logan, he would follow a routine. So if I was to then tell him, no, he can't have food at this time that he has it, he's going to really struggle to grasp that he can't have that then, because that has been in his routine.
Yeah.
And it's like, Logan will have lunch at about 11 o'clock because he's in school for 1, and he takes about an hour or so to eat, but I also need to get him dressed and sorted. But with Logan, the routine that I've built around him for leaving the house or having visitors is we get dressed before we go somewhere, or we get dressed before visitors come over. because Logan would get irritated by certain clothes, or he'd put clothes on and expect to be able to go outside straight away. And I was like, no, we've got breakfast to do, we've got this to do, we've got that to do first. So if I don't get him dressed, he doesn't think he's leaving the house. So that has been a routine I've implemented. And then obviously my concern now with when he starts to go full time after the December is how are they going to integrate his lunch to him? Because they don't have lunch in school currently when they start at 1. And when they're in mornings, I think they're in from 9 till 11.
Yeah, it's a rush, isn't it, with lunches? It always has been in schools, because you get called in, don't you, at a certain time. And I think it's wrong that how they do this. Like, I don't know if it's still the same, but that, like, they'll go by how old the years are. Like, when they like if you're 11 or like, but I think they got. I don't know how things are now. I think if you're younger, you can just go in earlier than everyone else. But if you're younger,
Yeah, because I remember with the older lot, it was like certain weeks, some of the older people got to go first, and then it was like they got to be in the queue first for the first 15 minutes because they had exams and stuff, which I get. But then the rest of the year, then it was like year 7s and year 8s could go first, and then it was like, well, year 9s aren't getting in to have their lunch until 1:15, but they're still in the queue with all the others that it's still been waiting to be served as well.
yeah,
Whereas I think in primary school, as far as I'm aware, I think the nursery kids are all together in their own, especially in Logan school anyway, are in their own, and they go to their lunch with their lot, and they're served, and they can take as long as they need up until like obviously the end of lunch. But it's a case of there is no rush to get them out and seen to. Versus I think as you go through the school, it's like, oh, they're taking a while in their lunch, we need to work on this with them and set them time limits.
yeah. I remember like sometimes if you're in the older lot, like you'd get like 10 minutes, and it's not good, because like, you know, like people have health issues, or like that they need to take that time, because for anyone it's not good to rush. Like, you don't want to rush.
No.
You might want to if you want to go outside to play or something, or something like that.
It's like even from a point of older school ways, detention. If you had a lunchtime detention, you weren't coming out to get your lunch in time. And then by the time you were getting your lunch and you've eaten it, it's time to go back into class.
Right. I yeah, I had a funny story about that. Like once and this was in special school, by the way, and I'll tell you a little bit of situation in mainstream in a minute. But I was in it was science, and I the teacher, I believe now is retired, I think, but it wasn't when I was there, of course. And we did science, and she was almost like a mainstream teacher in a social school, kind of like to train it like that. But we were doing science. I didn't bring my pencil case, and the only reason I didn't bring it is I did forget it. But the other reason I didn't bring it is I thought I'm not going to look for it, because I'm not going to need to use it. And that reason was because I knew it was going to be on the computers for the lesson. I know they rented out and stuff like that, because you have to rent them out, don't you? Like you buy a house.
Yeah.
um,
It's the same with
and
the school halls, isn't it?
yeah. And what happened was, I come in and it says, Mason, where's your pencil case? And I said, I didn't bring it. And she said, why? And I said, I'm not going to use them, am I? And I said, you may not need to use them, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't bring them. And then, for that reason, she gave me detention. And what annoyed me, I didn't say anything about this at the time. I wait till everything's calmed down and everyone's left. But and another person that's possibly more high than me, or like maybe comes across more naughtier, forgot their pencil case too, and it doesn't really bring it didn't really bring it to many lessons as well, and they forgot their pencil case, and then the teacher's like, oh, here's a pencil, or like a pen, so they gave them one, and I get detention for doing something that I thought well, the fact is we didn't use the pencil case in the lesson, so I did the right thing.
It's not the point though, is
Well,
it? Like
no,
she shouldn't have done that. Like
no. But what happened afterwards? Of course,
make an example out of one person. That's not.
yeah, yeah. And that lunchtime, I go to the detention, but I don't go in. I stand at the door, and it's quite funny, really. I always laugh about it. The teacher was like, "Oh, I'm making you're here for your detention." And I said, "No, I'm not here for that. I'm here to have a conversation with you." Um, and because I'm annoyed, I might have raised my voice a little bit because I have the right to be annoyed when another person has that doesn't get one and I do for exactly the same reason. And
Yeah.
she ends up saying that you're kind of across as aggressive, but I wasn't. I was just raising my voice, and she didn't know what to say because I said she didn't know what to say when I was explaining why are you giving someone else a pencil case and they haven't got detention then like me, when we didn't in fact use the pencils that lesson. And what happened? Uh, she ended up saying, "I wasn't going to give you the attention anyway. Go to lunch." And then, yeah, so I was able to actually say my point. And if I didn't say my point, I probably would have had to go to that detention. But
Yeah, probably. Or she would have explained to you, but even then, that's still taking up unnecessary time.
yeah,
She
yeah,
could have had that discussion with you either in class instead of going, well, why have you not brought it? She could have been like, okay, no worries. Can you just make sure you bring it next time because XYZ?
yeah, yeah. And I wasn't a naughty person. I like to. I did enjoy lessons too. To be fair, they were quite funny. Like but it was just I suppose upset. I was upset because I I'm not a bad person. I don't think I'm
Yeah,
not.
I, I think for, I don't know how to word this now. I think people forget that autistic people in general don't have the same concept and mind frame as a neurotypical person or
Mm,
somebody without those needs of like, I may have understood why we may have needed a pencil case even if we weren't going to use it, and I may have understood why like I was in the wrong, but to you literally in your brain it was a I don't need it this lesson, so why don't need to go back and find it.
yeah,
And you like autistic people's brains are very literal thinking.
yeah. It was,
So it's like that is also another reason why you would have gotten upset because she genuinely hasn't punished anybody else for it. It made no sense to. So in your head, this is why you're getting wound up and emotional about it and frustrated about it. And she's just said, like, oh, well, I wasn't going to give it to you anyway, which is just exacerbating the problem in the first place. Because in your head, you're there going, but you said you were going to give it to me and now you're not.
yeah. Is that was probably the only other situation other than like the lunch one I mentioned in special school, and then there was a fair few. The two main ones in mainstream was after lunch one time. I was in the kind of this class that other people had special needs too. It probably wouldn't have just been autism; it would have been other things. And I heard the teacher say you got to go to wait outside the library and stuff. And I do, and not just me. As that's why I thought I was doing the right thing. 15 minutes waiting there for. Of course, the library's locked. Go back and teacher says, "Why are you not? Why are you? Where have you been?" And stuff like that. And I say, "I've been waiting in the library, like you said." And then she says, "I didn't say that." And then I got all confused. So there was really miscommunication there, and like the same situation, get detention. um, and then in the morning, I believe, the head of year comes to see us, and I'm not very confident at this point, but no one else was speaking, so I had to speak, and he wasn't coming across very nicely. And I said to him, well, he said to me, I said to us, why didn't you turn up? And I said, I thought I was doing the right thing. Like I got told what I thought. If I didn't think that, would have been like in class, wouldn't I? um, but but yeah, when that happened, he ended up saying, "I'll let you off." And then on my mind thinking, "Let me off for what?" Like that kind of stuff. In that situation, um, And one other situation is putting the ties on, struggling, ask for help, and teachers not giving that help was a really annoying thing. Like I found it really hard to ask for help when people didn't do it, and they would watch you do it, knowing that you're going to struggle.
It's a big one. I know, like, you have to let people learn, but like, you were there because you can't do things. You can't think in the same logical way. Your brain doesn't see things the same way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And like, whereas like to somebody else, they may have understood it, but they don't. It grates me because I feel like there is a lack of common sense from people in management to be able to help others.
yeah, yeah, and they kind of say things that, like, so some people will say things that just to please, like, maybe if you maybe in the future for you, for example, if you're at school and like teachers promise things and stuff like that, and then they probably only like say that maybe to please you or try to make you happy, and then you find out later that some maybe is not being right, something's not right going on. And yeah, like I just think, to
Like,
be
even as a
honest,
parent, it's like, I will not promise something to Logan if he cannot have it because he does not understand that he can't have it.
yeah,
And it's like, he will take it literally if I'm like, oh, well, tomorrow we'll go here. And if we don't, he gets very upset about it.
yeah, yeah, it's probably the best way to be like that. And like, what's your thoughts on like if you need a toilet in schools, for example, and you they say you have to wait till lunch and you need to go.
No, I absolutely hate that. So my whole family has had bowel and toileting issues in general. My dad has IBS. I have issues with IBS stuff. And it has meant that, like, if you need to go, you need to go.
Yeah,
Like, you can't hold that in unless, like, so for me with ADHD, that's the one thing I do is hold in going to the toilet to like pee.
yeah,
Um, and like, I'll forget about it or I'll be desperate and can hold it, but it's not good for your body system at all in any way, shape, or form.
mm,
Like, you are causing more harm to these children by asking them to wait. And I know sometimes it feels like they are taking the mickey, especially if they've asked 5 times in a lesson to go. But I think there has to be an understanding with teachers and perhaps going, okay, well, I'll send so and so to go with you to go to the toilet. They'll stand outside the toilet waiting. And I know that that is somewhat a breach, I guess, of like, I'm not saying to go stand and watch somebody go to the toilet.
yeah,
I'm just saying to stand outside the bathrooms. And I know there is a pressure then, but at the same time, there will be those people who do take the mick, isn't there? It's
yeah,
that fine line. But I do feel like there needs to be a toilet pass type thing, like a card you can hold up to go, I need the toilet and that's where I'm going. And you wave it as you stand up and you go to leave the classroom so the teacher sees it.
yeah. I have because of my Crohn's, I have to go to the toilet quite a lot too. I have like just can't wait card, and I wasn't done with Crohn's till like in year 11 at school, so I didn't really have that opportunity in school to use it. So I didn't have an excuse, or well, not an excuse, and reason to go to the
Yeah.
toilet. But it shouldn't be the case anyway, like for anyone. Like you say, I know people probably take the mick. Some people go there for the sake of it, maybe missing lessons, but you don't know that. Like they may actually need to go,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And and yeah, like with having like that IBD, it's hard, and like you you don't look like nothing's wrong, and you don't look like you're not, if you're not in the wheelchair, you're classed, you're fine. But which it's disappointing. But yeah, I'm not sure if that has changed. I wouldn't have thought so in
I
schools.
don't really know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Logan's a bit too young, and obviously with
Yeah,
his issues anyway, it's not something I'm probably going to find out about.
yeah,
Whereas, like, I know in crash or like daycare type thing, they will take them at regular intervals anyway, and they will ask, do they need the toilet? And it's like, I like the whole consent thing as well, with the whole, can I check your nappy? Or it's, should we go to the toilet? And they're like, no. And it's like, okay, well, we can either do it now or in 5 minutes. And it's like making the child feel like they have a choice and a decision in that making. And I think that's what teachers forget, is like, they could literally turn around and be to that person, do you need to go now or can you wait 5 minutes? And that's a way around it with kids, because like, it could literally be that child could wait 5 minutes, that child may not actually need to go, or in 5 minutes time it could just be like a case of, yeah, I didn't really need to go, I was just wasting time.
Yeah, we can't. It's hard to just tell them that sometimes. Like, you just have to go. Like, I have to. It's not good to hold in. I know sometimes if you're on a car journey, like you kind of have to sometimes, don't you? Like if you're on a car journey and or something like that. But in school, it should be, it's your human right to go to the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
No one can't tell you can't. Like the teachers don't ask, do they? Can I go to the toilet? Do they? They just go when they want. Oh,
Yeah. And it's like, they have to remember, like, you wouldn't ask unless you needed to go. Realistically, that's what they have to think about. It's like, for them, they probably have hung on to go, right, okay, I can't hold on any longer, I need to go to the toilet. And that's the majority of students.
Yeah.
Like, it genuinely is. It's the same for the majority of students. We don't want to have to get up and make a scene in the classroom to have everybody stare at us just because we need to go to the toilet. Especially as females as well, for like, with our bodily functions, there are certain things that we need to go and sort out, and it just, you're being penalized for just having body parts.
Yeah. You have to use them, don't we?
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Yeah. But it is. Yeah. It's. I always say I like to go back one day to just to see how things are doing, like how it was all in schools now. Have they changed much? Like, yeah, it's just something that would be interesting. But it's the toilet thing that did really annoy me when I was at school anyway.
It's like, you can ask to go to the toilet in an exam and have someone escort you so you don't cheat,
Yeah.
but you don't have to sit and wait to the end of the exam, do you? So why is it any different in a classroom setting?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember it all. Like, I know, like, if multiple people are asking, for example, like, I need toilet, I need toilet, I need toilet, like, they're gonna say no to everyone probably, because there's too many people asking at once. And then because you can't predict what time you really need that toilet. It kind of just happens, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think if there are a lot of people, the maximum amount of toilets you have, surely. So you would send them in groups and wait. You'd have to wait for the other 3 to come back and then send the other 3. It is what it is. And like, obviously it will be a case of who's really desperate and who can hold on. And that's a conversation you are allowed to have with people
Yeah. Like,
if you need to manage it that way.
I remember I went to a few years ago. I went to see Ed Sheeran concert. I did. And I didn't go to the toilet. I knew I was going to need a toilet before it started. And I didn't go to the ones in Ed Sheeran because I knew they would have been packed. So I saw McDonald's. And it was packed too. But I have my just can't wait card, and then I'm like, it's like I'm having that, and then there's a disabled toilet, and I know not everyone's gonna be disabled. I would have thought so, because the other ones were packed anyway, like the normal ones, the public ones you normally use, and I would skip the queue and I'll say I need to use the toilet because I did, and that was one situation. And another one is I went to this restaurant or somewhere, and I said, "Can I use your toilet?" And it was only a staff toilet, and they said no to start with. And then I can't explain having Crohn's and everything, and I ended up showing my card, and then they let me through in the end. And I did say, I might, if I don't go, I'll probably you might have to clean something up in a minute or something like that.
It's like when I was pregnant, I stopped at a service station, petrol station, and they didn't have a toilet other than for staff. And I was like, I am pregnant, and like, I genuinely, unless you want stuff on your floor right now because my child is playing football with my bladder. I was like, I really need to go.
Yeah. And did they let you?
They did, thankfully, but it was one of those. It was either that or I'm gonna have to pop a squat behind your building. So you take your pick.
Yeah, people do that though, like, don't they? Like, it's like everyday thing. Like, if you need a toilet, for example, if you're going on drive, for example, and there's nothing nearby, and you're probably about 45 minutes to get home or something, or like you might need to do that, and it's not like something to be embarrassed about, because like you have to, and you can't help that, and it's hard. It's hard. Like, in general, I would love to prefer to wait till I get home. I don't like going to toilets where I prefer a disabled one over a public one, because I don't like people coming in and stuff if I was gonna go or something like that, because that's
It stresses me out with like, I get baby changings being in the toilets, in the female toilets, but I would rather a separate baby changing facility because it's really, really hard with like Logan, for instance, to change his nappy. But I do also believe that there should also be a toilet in a baby changing facility and not just a baby changing unit. Because I remember having to take Logan and his older brother, his half brother, to the toilet. And I got the pram and I got all the shopping and I got the other child with me. And there's no way you can get all of that one into just a female toilet area with a baby changing unit for me to go to the toilet and change a baby's nappy. And both of which boys were boys. So obviously people get a bit awkward, especially when the child is of a certain age, but is still on that cusp of they're not old enough to go into a gents toilet by themselves. Yeah. So for me, like, having that baby changing area with that toilet in is vital, or was vital, should I say.
Yeah. I think I actually remember in college there was a disabled toilet, and I wasn't allowed to use it. It was only a staff only toilet, and I got annoyed about it because I don't like using the disabled toilets. I'm not sorry, the public toilets. I need to use the disabled one because they're easier for me, and they're stupid. At the time, we didn't say much about it. I couldn't do much about it because it was even the head of the college was saying it as well, and thinking, why is this a thing? Like you don't get that in an everyday place. I know that probably maybe the only place that you can go to the toilet. It doesn't mean I shouldn't be able to use it, because what they were getting at, if I use it, they have to let everyone else in the college use it, and I thought that was silly. Really.
You have your needs with your Crohn's that where you would need to be in an environment like that, though.
Yeah, and I knew all that. I knew I have Crohn's. It wasn't a big college, but it was very annoying. I did sometimes use it anyway. But regardless what they said, at that point I don't really care if I did get told off for that, because I was doing what I thought I had to do. Like, I'm not going to go downstairs, and I don't like having conversations in a public toilet with people.
It's like, for instance, I would be really heartbroken from a point of if Logan ever needed to go to the toilet, but because there are so many people in the toilet and so many different sounds, because he very much does struggle with an overwhelming amount of sounds and strangers because he doesn't like eye contact, doesn't like conversation in a confined space. So I'd be absolutely heartbroken to think that he's held on and then like gone and had an accident because he felt like he couldn't go and use the disabled toilet because he's not physically disabled.
I think it like, you don't have to be physically disabled to use one, do you?
No.
Because it's just that thing, isn't it? Like, if you have a wheelchair, you look more like you can use it, and although wheelchair users are 100% right, like you can use it, but that doesn't mean no one else can. I know people probably who are not disabled use it as well, but which they should think they shouldn't do that. But I suppose if in an ideal world, if there was no toilets free, you'd probably use that for anyone, really, if you're disabled or not. But it's very annoying when that kind of stuff happens. Like, I remember once, I went to London, and I was and when you get out, there was a toilet in, I think it was Wetherspoons, it was, and I went in there, and I asked mum to stand outside, because I know, I'd look at everything, but I know just people. I don't like not people knocking, saying, "Is anyone in there?" or when I use the toilet, um,
Yeah.
because it makes you feel rushed, and then I can hear them outside having a conversation with them, saying, "Who's in there?" And then it's like my son, bending me, and said, "I'm in a wheelchair. I need to use the toilet," or something, saying something like that. And then I could have said something when I got out, but I didn't, because there's no point. um, because most likely probably not going to know what Crohn's is, and looking at me at that probably moment, they're thinking I'm not in a wheelchair, I don't look disabled. But
Mm.
like, nowadays, I think more people do understand. Well, I think more people do understand now that it's not always like that kind of. It's not always that is disabled. Like, they have those pictures now on toilets sometimes, don't they? Like, not not.
Not every
Okay.
disability is
No. Yeah. Yeah.
is visual.
Yeah. That's it.
Something along those lines, isn't it?
Yeah.
You
And
can't always see every disability.
no, no, yeah, I think that's good. It's good they do that. I think, because it just shows that, like, not everyone has to go through the same experience,
Mm.
but it just depends, doesn't it?
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah. Um. So I hope. Well. You kind of just started in it, like this past year, like trying to get Logan that diagnosis.
Yeah, so we're on the wait list with pediatrics and neurodevelopment. The wait list at the time was 2 years, but as far as I'm aware, according to a friend who's in the industry, so that sounds really weird saying it like that. It's going up to a 3-year wait list, so that's fun. We are looking at getting him statemented through school with the educational psychologist and things, but again, wait lists, educational psychologist is part-time. There's over 1,000 plus cases just in the Carmarthenshire area, and unfortunately, as I say, it is one of those where we are in a society where it's those who scream and shout the loudest get seen first.
Yeah, you have to, don't you? Like, be mean if you can,
Yeah,
if you have to.
and
Anyway.
it's like one of those, the schools will get extra funding if they have him statemented, but then you got to make sure with schools that they're hitting their needs. And then it's like the same with the specialist schools, there's wait lists there. And
Yeah.
I just think it's such a shame that everything is in such dire need instead of it just being accessible.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, I know the mainstream schools are overrun, so I can only imagine what it's like for additional learning needs or special needs schools, for how that must be for them. And I
Yeah.
just think there needs to be more of these out there and available. And I understand there will be some times where the classes will be smaller and it may not be so much of an issue, but right now, and it's like, even just going off for predicted, like the baby boom years, you'd think people would go, oh, right, well, we definitely need extra. Like, even if it's just like a temporary basis.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it was very yeah, it was very hard to transfer, actually, to get to that special school. You had to fight quite a lot even for that. Even if you have autism,
Mm.
it's very hard. And like, being at that special school, you can see how things are done. Like, you can see, like you say, those little classes. And I had some friends there who actually were there for the most of their lives. From like about really young nursery to leaving, and going on afterwards. But yeah, hopefully it goes all okay. Um,
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, and I have to keep me updated.
I
Um,
will do.
and I could help if I can.
Thank you.
Yeah. Kath, is there before we go, is there like anything you want to say, like maybe any advice or any last words?
Advice wise, don't feel like you need to be quiet and that you can't talk up about it.
Yeah.
If you have a gut feeling that this is something that you are dealing with, or you know someone who's dealing with it and you are fighting for them, please speak up, because you are their voice. You are your own voice if you can. So for me, I have to advocate for Logan as best as possible. And it's one of those, you have to look at it, the good versus the evil. Shouting you may become the irritating parent, the irritating person that people don't like, but ultimately, are these people's needs being met? And is there ways these needs can be met quicker and in a more suitable way? So please, please just speak up as best as you can.
Yeah, I think that's great. Right, I think it's been really nice. I think very nice to talk in today, Cath, because we've talked a lot about autism. Right, I've got autism. I kind of know, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it.
I have. It's been lovely chatting to you.
It has, and we'll definitely do more stuff together and like see each other's doing.
Yes.
Now and then.
I think that sounds like a good plan.
Definitely. Well, thanks, Cath.
Thank you.